Well, hello, good morning, everyone. This is House of Prozorov, thoughts from the deep state, the melting snowflake. Hey, let's take a galaxy view, a view of the world from a big perspective. Projection becomes reality. That is so true, that we sometimes lose sight of it. We get sidetracked, we get caught into other people's thought patterns. We don't understand it quite yet. There are concepts called quantum physics, quantum chemistry, things that have to do with light and electrons and chemicals and the universe. And we don't think it applies to us sometimes. And then we find out maybe it does. Um, you notice let's think about what rich people do. Let's think about what people do when they get a lot of money. They typically isolate themselves. They do that for a reason, and they seem to even prosper more after the isolation. One of it, I believe, is the noise coming from mental thought patterns. People see you and they just think stuff. They don't think about your past. They don't think about your present. They don't think about your future. They just think things. Things pop into their head. They're not always good. They're looking at themselves and they want to survive. And we have no idea, looking at another human being, how much their survival might feel threatened, right? And how evil some people are to project that onto other people. I've always thought how horrific that you would think that you drag other people into your problems. Now I find out it's quite common. Everything from bad partners or women that I've dated who are horrible, to just people that were in business or people I had to be around every day who just thought for some reason I had to be in their struggle, I had to be in their fight. I was, of course, in their presence to help them. Maybe not. Maybe, unfortunately, we have come together. I need something, you need something, and we don't really like each other. And we're trying to project this new reality of where I deeply understand your problems and I don't want anything to do with your problems. And you certainly don't want anything to do with my problems. That's even more evident. So projection becomes reality. Stumbling blocks, of course, stepping stones, how to grow from your difficulties. I'm going to shift and be a little more positive, and instead of just making a blanket statement of freedom that I don't want to be drawn into your world, whatever your world is, I might not want to be part of it. We don't seem to have any way of saying that. Nobody goes around saying that, but it's intuitive that people think that. Wealthy people certainly think that. They don't suddenly get super rich and decide they're going to move downtown to the hood and be more integrated with the community. They do the very opposite. They move away. They want that space. They want that privacy. They want that lack of judgment from people they could care less about. Now, if is that the right way to be? Doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong. It's what people end up doing if they get the chance. That tells us a lot. What do people do when they're allowed to do whatever they choose? Not what someone thinks is the right thing, right? Of course, we have a conscience, and a conscience can be very helpful and it can help us to do the right thing, but it can also make us miserable when we do the right thing, but it's the wrong thing for us. So that's difficult. Um, when we have stumbling blocks coming up in front of us, we can choose to look at those stumbling blocks as stepping stones. We can choose to grow from these difficulties or shrink from them. And then at some point, some people might just say, but what about when it just becomes too much? And we need to keep going. I get that. The problem is we face limited time, limited resources, limited opportunity. Not that that can't grow, not that that can't change, not that the projection and the trajectory can't be something different. We still got to acknowledge that limitations exist. We know this. And some people are glad that you have limitations. That's what's the saying that like 80% of the population doesn't care about your problems, and then another 20% likely believes you deserve every single problem you have and more, and you're getting off easy. So that leaves very little space for people who actually care. More importantly, we need to realize what's important to us. Those who are young and listening to this, what's important to you is your bloodline and family. The school system's not going to tell you your bloodline and family are important. Maybe at a private school, you could get a little bit of that, or a religious school, but at a public school, they kind of give you the illusion that, family doesn't mean that much, and it's how you fit in with a group. When the very core of what you become is often tied to your family. Does your family have money? Do they have inheritance? Do they have wealth? And then if you try to check out the facts, AI, you can use internet, you can use whatever you can find as a tool, and they'll try to tell you that most people don't inherit wealth. Most people don't get this. Well, opportunities. Well, what are they talking about? They talk, 70% of the people did not inherit wealth. Are you talking about the world, or are you talking about the United States? Because you didn't clarify that in the statistics. Um, how many people that are rich were kind of born rich and had over $20,000 in a trust fund of given money to them just set aside, 20,000 or more? And I know 20,000 isn't that much, but it's a start. Some people don't get that. They don't get, if you're like me, you had to buy your own first car, you had to pay all your car insurance, you had to end up paying rent by the time you were about 19 or 20. You were doing all these things. You didn't get a nice college trust fund to help you. You didn't get any of these things. And you're told that most people get that deal. That's a good thing to say if you're in power, because then people will stop. Say, well, it must be me. I didn't get enough. Most people don't get enough money. Most people don't get that kind of help, and they still make it. So it must be me. I'm the problem. Well, some people think that's a good way to approach it, because if you see yourself as the problem, you're the only one that can fix it, and therefore you're going to take responsibility for your issues. That's the ideal scenario. However, that might not be how it works at all. And I kind of think it doesn't. I think that's just a nice framework, right? People are trying to always jive back and forth and try to look like they're tougher than they are, that they deserve. If they're wealthy, they try to justify their wealth because they don't want to feel bad that they got money, right? Elon Musk doesn't want to run around and say, well, I inherited an emerald mine and a bunch of money from my parents, and their perspective, not only the money, but the perspective of building wealth that your parents have. If you're Elon Musk's parents who were smart about making money, the same with Donald Trump. I mean, we know all these things, and there's many, many, many more people like that, but they're hiding their cards. They're hiding it. The money is the most hidden thing on the planet. Money and sex and sometimes religion, but these things are hidden, and they're. This is what it is, but this is what they explain it to be, all to confuse you, so you don't stop and say, I should have inherited wealth. I should have had money. I've done way more work than these people will ever do. I've suffered way more than these people ever will. And they don't want you to think that way, because then you'll start asking questions. And then if you use your freedom of speech and your freedom to protest, your freedom to fight the political system, your freedom to stand up, they don't want that. You can see that that is so obvious. So what am I trying to say? And I want to make this short, that your stumbling blocks can be your stepping stones. But what if the stumbling blocks were never there in the first place, right? And there were nothing but stepping stones. Oh, you just have bad imagination, and there's always stumbling blocks. Well, what do you mean by a stumbling block? Somebody ate a bad cookie, or are you talking about actual poverty and lack of transportation, all sorts of things? These are totally different ball games. One guy says it's this, one gal says it's that. It all means something different to different people, so it gets blended in to mean whatever you think it means, and there's no standard definition. Just like we're getting away from the idea that poverty needs to be cured. Many people now in the Western world, they've defeated communism, and they've decided, hey, we can go back to charging as much as we want for rent. We don't even have to feed these people. We certainly don't have to send them to college. And we just don't care. It's about our bloodline. We're getting back to who we really are. We're getting the mask ripped off. And so this has been something for you to think about. This is the melting snowflake, which they think is an insult, but snowflakes are beautiful, and the process of melting and freezing and all that is natural. Thoughts from the deep state. This is the House of Prozeroff telling you, projection becomes reality. Project good things. I'll see you next time. Peace.